All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and call to order the Sebastian City Council and Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. Would you have everyone stand for a moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Dixon. All right, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nunn.
Here.
Councilmember Dixon.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
And Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, Council, do we have any agenda modifications? Hearing none, no modifications, no proclamations. Vice Mayor Nunn, would you read the brief announcements, please?
I would. Tuesday, July 4th, we will have our 4th of July Freedom Festival. The parade begins at 8:30 a.m. Vendors, food, kids' activities, and music in Riverview Park from 10 a.m. and at fireworks promptly at 9 p.m.
All right, thank you so much for that. Our next order of business is public input. If there's anyone wishing to speak on anything that's not on the current agenda, please come forward, give your name and where you live.
Good evening. Grace Reed, Sebastian. Mine's brief. I just wanted to get up today and say thank you. Thank you for making the decision to run for council, taking time away, even if it's just moments in time away from your personal lives, to focus on things that are happening in the city, no matter how difficult they may be. It seems like during the past few months, I've determined that this is a very thankless job with little compensation. There are some, if not many, who are quick to ridicule, defame, or threaten their next vote, but they don't appear to be willing to run and take on the task. In my opinion, they either don't know enough to be effective, they aren't willing to learn, they simply do not have the time to try to make a difference, or they're so politically motivated to their party that the main objection is to cause divisiveness and confusion within the city. I don't see anything, and I've looked through our old agendas, our old meetings and stuff like that, and I swear I don't see anything that this city council does or decides that is either Republican or Democrat or somewhere in between. It's nonpartisan, and there's so many people that do not understand that. I can assure you that come November, my vote is not going to be based off of one decision that anyone made. I make my decisions based off of what you have shown me as your decisions across the board and how you respond to the public, how you treat the public, how you're seen in the public, and how you interact with your peers. And for that, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, come forward.
Ron Mather, Sebastian. Mr. Mayor.
Hang on a second, sir. Did you get the name?
Sir, did you say Ron Mallett?
M-A-T-H-E-R.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I see you offer masks at the front door for people. And now that I believe that people are comfortable not wearing masks, so there, with that thought, I think council, if they're not present, then the vote should not count. Now, I can see why he went that way when the pandemic was, booming. Why, things were done different, because you still had to run the city, but no, I just think that it should go back to the way it was, need to be present to vote. And do you think you could ask the rest of the council to think about that.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Mr. Mather, our voting precedence is based on state law and city charter and city ordinance. So it's not something that we could just sit here and make a decision on today. That's actually based on state law that gives the right for that to happen. It's based on the city charter, which is modified every 6 years by a committee that makes a decision what to modify. That could definitely be something that could be looked at in a future charter review if it's not going to go against state law, but it's not something we could just choose to change right now.
All right, because I remember years ago, it seems like everybody had to be present.
Yes, the state
Because
changed it.
otherwise, if you have a quorum,
Yes, sir.
then,
Yes, sir, it did used to be that way, but the state changed it and they never changed it back completely.
okay, interesting, I know that.
You still have to have a majority present.
A quorum,
Yeah, quorum, but the state made it so you could still have the other members be not present and vote, so,
stands,
just for information's sake.
all right. One other thing, on the waste management card, I called up the number on the card they sent out, and they're in Central Florida, and I asked them, who owns the card? And they said they do. Waste Management owns the card. So if we have a hurricane or something, why would I want to take care of somebody's card?
You have anything else, sir?
Well, no, I guess not. I got a few more things to say, but it's get me nowhere, because it goes non-ad valorem. I don't know when the tax mailer gets it. You did say in a few months, or that it goes to the county and it goes into our non-ad valorem taxes or fees.
Right, we haven't gotten to that part yet. We're still working on that.
So I don't own the cart. I got other things to take care of. My garage is full. I don't want my garage. Any ideas?
No, sir.
No? Well, if I leave it out in the street and it blows around, who's liable?
Do you have anything else further for us, sir?
No, I just would like a clarification on that.
Well, that's a legal question. I can't answer that legal question, but perhaps Waste Management and their legal people can.
All right, who can over our council could answer that?
A legal question?
Waste Management owns the cart,
Right, I understand that. You're saying
and it's like, if I don't want it, how am I still, take care of it? I mean, if there's a hurricane, who's responsible for taking care of it?
right. Okay. You have anything further for us, sir?
Nah,
All right. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
thank you.
Is there anyone else? Do we have anyone on Zoom with their hands raised?
No one has raised their hand.
Okay, moving on, public input's closed. We're now going to recess the city council meeting and convene the community redevelopment agency meeting. I think the first thing we have is the minutes on there, correct?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the September 30th, 2022 CRA meeting minutes and approval of the April 26th, 2023 CRA meeting minutes.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion on that?
No, they look good.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Vice Chairman Nunn,
Yes.
Ms. Dixon,
Yes.
Mr. Dodd,
Yes.
Mr. McPartlin,
Yes.
and Chairman Jones.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, next item is item C. Ms. Frazier, do you have anything or would like to add anything other?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the consultants that were employed to, using grant funding to do a study on the CRA and develop a master plan, they are here tonight, GAI consultants.
Right.
So they are going to make a presentation for us.
Absolutely. Bring them up. Come on, ladies.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Laura Smith. I'm with GAI Consultants, the firm who conducted your CRA master plan update, and Natalie Frazier is also here with me from GAI, one of the consultants who was key in the preparation of this plan. I would just like to first let you know that this plan, as Mr. Kilgore just explained, was funded completely with grant dollars, meaning that no money came out of your budget to have this plan update prepared. It was all through a Department of Economic Opportunity community planning grant. In addition to that, I just wanted to point out that there are a number of benefits to conducting these types of updates to your CRA plan. Most notably that statutes change every legislative session. Little pieces are adjusted here and there that can change the meaning or underlying interpretation sometimes of language that previously has been interpreted different ways. Small adjustments here and there, comma placements, can have big impact on the interpretation of what the meaning of that language can be. One of those things that we want to talk about, or that we want to at least bring to your attention, is that sometimes that affects budgets for you all, especially how you can expend dollars out of your CRA trust fund, things that may need to be moved into the general fund for funding purposes, and that was one of the outcomes of this plan update. There were some items that needed to be taken out of trust fund expenditures and moved into the city's budget. Additionally, your operational timeframe on your CRA is currently scheduled to sunset in 2033. That gives you about 10 more years. So those budgetary parameters are important for thinking about if you decide that you want to allow your agency to sunset in 10 years, or if you want to go through the process of looking to extend the operational time frame for up to 60 years, which is the maximum state statute allows. We also wanted to point out that the additional benefits of this plan update include that we did find there was an inconsistency with the amount of trust fund contributions being made by the county, which is actually increasing your overall trust fund to the amount of about $80,000 over the last couple of years from the county's contribution into the trust fund. That over the next 10 years, obviously, is a lot of money if it had been left the way that it was. Natalie Frazier with GAI is going to be presenting the overall plan, how we got there, the process we went through, and some of those findings. But if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those at the conclusion.
Mayor, council members, I'm Natalie Frazier, as Laura mentioned. So as you know, the Sebastian Community Redevelopment Agency was established in 1995, and then in 1996, shortly after, the agency adopted the Sebastian Redevelopment Master Plan. And then it was updated 2 more times, once in December 2003 to add in the adjacent 95-acre expansion area, which is shown on the map above, and then also in 2010 to update the recommendations and capital improvement schedule. Now, 13 years later, there was a need to update the master plan. There we come in. So since establishment, some of the major projects completed by the CRA include roads and infrastructure such as the Main Street, Indian River Drive, realignment, boat ramp, and parking improvements, repaving drainage, adding parking lighting and landscaping, crosswalks to the presidential streets and Indian River Drive, and then also some of the economic development projects such as providing matching fund grants to purchase working waterfront properties and upgrade public facilities, and also establishing grant programs to support public-private projects, including the Septic to Sewer Assistant Program, and then Sign and Landscape Grant Program and Parking and Loon Program. So those are just some of the major projects that since establishment the CRA has been instrumental in implementing. This redevelopment master plan update was, like Laura mentioned, awarded through a community planning grant to fund the existing master plan. The sections included in this overall plan were a review of the existing baseline and evaluation of the prior plan and CRA as a whole, and a market assessment and economic analysis, which reviewed the demographic and socioeconomic makeup of the CRA and city, the market trends. We have provided employment and population projections, and also a commercial and residential capacity analysis. And then we engaged in some public input and public workshops, which took place over a day period, but they were 2 workshops, and we included a community survey with 150 responses, so pretty good turnout. And then, of course, the overall redevelopment plan, which reviewed the overview of the CRA, conceptual planning districts. We recommended improvement programs. We updated the short and long-term goals of the conceptual planning districts, and we updated the tax increment and revised the capital improvement programs. So the purpose of this 2023 Sebastian CRA Master Plan is to help further the vision and aid the city in identifying sustainable strategies and opportunities for the future of its core urban areas. So like I just mentioned, the master plan update focused on 5 conceptual planning districts within the CRA, first established in the 2010 master plan. These included the Park District, Sebastian Boulevard Mixed Use District, U.S. Commercial 1 District, Riverfront District, and the Sebastian Boulevard South District. These planning districts helped narrow our focus and determine priority projects and catalyst sites further detailed in the plan. In addition, the market assessment, some of the key demographic facts that we found, don't whisper, were that the population has been increasing within the CRA. If you look at the graph, the population is actually growing within the CRA, but the capture to the city is staying relatively consistent, indicating that the CRA is growing faster than the city. Employment is also increasing over the last 12 years. You've added over, well, nearly 400 employees. It just is increasing at a steady rate. And then the median age at 61.8 indicates that the demographics trend older within the CRA compared to the city, where the median age is 54. Also, the incomes shown above are slightly higher than the city as a whole, so your CRA is doing well with incomes. The public engagement, during our public engagement exercises, in addition to the 150 community responses on the survey, indicated that the public would like the CRA to prioritize the major themes in order of importance listed above. So infrastructure and drainage were the most important priorities the CRA, or the public, indicated. And then waterfront, parks and public spaces, roads, parking, pedestrian connectivity, public safety, and preserving the community character. In addition, the public engagement input resulted in defining the Old Fishing Village, or helping to define the Old Florida Fishing Village, which is best represented by active with natural tones, which includes active waterfronts with restaurants, boat docks, and social opportunities, and then also traditional iconic elements, which includes traditional coastal buildings with iconic elements and vibrant accents, as shown in the images above. Throughout the redevelopment plan process, we identified 5 catalyst sites owned by the city, prime for development and or redevelopment, and these are shown above, and they are further, I know they're pretty small up there, but they're blown up big in the plan. Focusing on infrastructure improvements like these will have lasting long-term positive impacts on the city and the CRA as a whole. Then, as Laura mentioned, the current 30-year operational term for the agency began in December 2003. Therefore, the agency is due to sunset in December 2033. The agency may continue beyond its original 30 term for another 30 years through 2063. So throughout the current sunset date, the CRA will collect, according to our tax increment projections, between $6.3 million and $7.3 million. We like to provide a low, moderate, and high scenario just so we can fall in the range and be a little bit more conservative and accurate with our projections. However, if the CRA were to extend beyond the current sunset date, the CRA would continue to collect an increment at an increasing positive rate as shown in this graph below. And then we provide detailed tables within the report that show how much the collections would continue if you were to extend the CRA. So then, last but not least, a few of the recommended strategies for redevelopment plan implementation is we recommend evaluating the projects, programs, and related activities within the first 5 years following adoption of the 2023 Sebastian CRA Master Plan to determine if a 30-year extension of the agency is necessary. We recommend adopting a formal definition for the Old Florida Fishing Village, like we just discussed, based off the active and natural tones. And we recommend adopting a formal style guide, which is both going to be highly visual, providing abundant examples of architectural treatments, which will provide clear and easy to follow criteria to reduce potential delays in development and redevelopment. We recommend modifying each of the overlay districts to adopt the Florida Fishing Village and formal style guide. And we recommend prioritizing the opportunity sites previously identified in the 2010 Sebastian Master Plan, while also progressing the catalyst sites located within these opportunity sites within the Sebastian CRA and looking into additional incentive programs to help fund these projects and programs throughout the short and long term. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
No questions?
Very nice document.
Thank you.
The detailed document has a lot of good stuff in it. What kind of, you may not be the one to answer this, I may have to go to Mrs. Frazier or someone. The next steps for us, we've got 5 potential redevelopment areas in this. Is our next step to begin to prioritize those and move forward with them?
Well, it's interesting, Councilman Dodd, that you bring that up. We have, if you talk about the 5 catalyst sites, and I'm looking for it in here, but perhaps Natalie could help me just put it up on the screen. There you go. Several of them, as you all know, are out right now for RFP. One being the Triangle site here, is that Catalyst Site 4? Thank you, Nat. And then Catalyst Site 3. So we're hopeful that we will get some responses and that the council will be comfortable with whatever is proposed so that those 2 sites would be redeveloped by private developers and give us that economic boost that we are looking for in our CRA. The working waterfront site is Site 1. We do have also grant dollars and a plan to expand that area. And then, of course, Catalyst Site 5 is our Riverview Park, and we do have in the master plan before you, we do have the design that was provided in 2019, I believe, by GAI consultants to expand and improve the Riverview Park area. 2018, I apologize. So those are basically your synopsis of these catalyst sites.
Okay, so if we want to, Riverview Park is probably not one that's going to be public-private deal with that. That's probably going to be primarily the city doing that work.
That is correct, sir.
So if we wanted to kind of move forward with that, would we need to do that through separate action? Is part of the implementation of this plan a definitive statement to make that happen? I'm trying to decide, do I need to bring something back to the city council and ask that Catalyst Site 5 be taken on by the city and that we produce a more detailed plan for it? I think there's some expediency in that,
Right.
you know, that we actually think about moving forward with that site, because it's not something that's going to be done with a public-private partnership. And it's also, I think in the satisfaction survey that was done during part of the work of that canceled strategic project, parks were the number one item that the citizens came forward with that they wanted us to work on. So
Currently,
I guess that's my question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Currently in the budget, we do have funding available to move forward with a design of the conceptual master plan, if you will, for Riverview Park. It certainly won't cover all of the concept all the way through phase 3. However, it was really allocated for Harrison Street and the overflow parking area, which I would recommend we begin with because those are most critical at this point. But that's completely up to you all. We do have the money budgeted already in this year's funding, 22-23, and I believe that next year's we have moved up the funding for that, to move forward to construction if you all approve that.
All right. Thanks.
So if you want to move it forward.
Yeah, well, I will move it forward. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
I think we have a
the first step
consensus.
is to approve this plan, and then we have
Correct.
to take this from the CRA board back to the city council, and let the city council then make that.
Correct, and the monies then would be utilized to help with the design of that whole area, a certain portion of it. Again, Harrison Street has been the most prominent need, and the overflow parking area, and we could begin with that whole design, and then bring it back to everyone to make sure that they're comfortable with that before we move into construction, obviously.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, you're good.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting ready to ask for anybody from the public who would like to speak on this.
Shannon Gallup, Sebastian. Yeah, I have this redevelopment master plan here, and I had the opportunity to look through it. The thing that stuck out to me was this community solutions group that is listed on every page, right next to our logo. So my understanding is they helped plan the plan, right? Okay, so I went to the Community Solutions Group website, and I found a lot of interesting information. But the one paragraph that stuck out to me was Environmental Protection Agency shows how aging baby boomers, millennials, and single people are seeking urban settings that are easy to walk, bike, use transit, or drive shorter distances. 2/3 of millennials, according to the EPA resource, desire walkable communities where they can use public transit. So this sounds to me like a 15-minute city. I mean, that's pretty much the definition of it. So my concern here is, you know, who's planning our plan and what are they walking us into? I don't really know. I haven't done a lot of research in it, but I do know I've done a lot of research on smart city planning, and I have the planning handbook here. And, you know, I know things to look for. And I certainly hope that, you know, this city council isn't walking us in that direction. You know, there's a lot of infrastructure that is going up locally that is in this planning book. So I just want to say that, you know, moving forward, I don't think a lot of us want to be in that situation. If people don't know what a 15-minute city is, Oxford is on the path there, and the city council has actually agreed to make it into a 15-minute city, and it is zoned into 6 different districts now, and everything is walkable. You know, your grocery store, your doctor, your playground, your entertainment, and also they voted in that you're only allowed to go out of your district 100 times a year, and if you go out more, you will be fined. And, you know, I just hope that, you know, something like that isn't being implemented here. You know, the Smart City Handbook does say that Chapter 101, Smart City, is the infrastructure. You have to get the infrastructure in, which is, you know, cables and cameras. You have to monitor everybody. And I don't know. After I read that chapter, it was really weird because, like, a couple weeks later, I saw a Treasure Coast newspaper article, June 21st of 2021, that said in its biggest project, Florida Power and Light will bury 76 miles of Sebastian power lines. So I don't know. I mean, my critical mind says, was anything else buried in there? I don't know. This is just stuff I'm asking myself. You know, this is a global agenda. It's a global initiative. It's not a grassroots one. It's coming from the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. And it's not about, you know, convenience and all that. It's really about rights and freedoms. And, you know, I mean, what got me all started was just, you know, looking at that community solutions group, you know, and what they develop and how they develop it and their infill. And I just hope that Sebastian, you know, isn't walking us into something like that. You know, we value this community. We like to keep it as it is. I mean, it's a great community. So I just want to say blessings to the city council, and, you know, may God help you lead our community down the right path. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. There's no clapping, please. Hey, have decorum, please. This is a place of business, please. Do we have someone else wishing to speak?
Just let it go. I have something to say, but
You can't. All right.
Lisa Boisvert, Sebastian Highlands. I'm going to be very brief here, but I have some questions. I understand that this plan is being designed and it's not costing us anything for the design. Sounds great. Who, however, is paying for it? Who's the benefactor? because that's important. Right now, we have no idea. Is this going to benefit us? If somebody is offering you something for free, it's usually not for free. So what's that about? As for the 15-minute city, all you have to do to see what a 15-minute city looks like is look to China. They've already got them. That's our model. Do we want to be like China? Do we want to have cameras on every street corner? Do we want our privacy being invaded, even in our garbage cans? In my opinion, absolutely not. I'm an American. I don't want to put up with constant intrusion. And so I ask you as the City Council, you have a fiduciary duty to the citizens of Sebastian. Exercising that fiduciary duty means doing extensive research before saying yes to anything, especially something that will change the nature of this city forever, especially something that may take our freedoms away from us forever. So I ask you to exercise your fiduciary duty, and before you vote on this, before you do anything, do the extensive research. The woman who was just up here had a handbook. Have any of you looked through that handbook? Have any of you looked through any materials other than what the company, who obviously stands to benefit from by implementing it, has told you? Do your own research. That's why you were elected, to represent us. We are not supposed to be subservient to you. If anything, you have chosen to be the public servants, and you ought to serve us. Therefore, do your research. Finally, if this passes and it turns out to be the boondoggle that many of us think it's going to be, there is going to be extensive litigation. Can we afford to have more litigation? We're already in litigation once over the annexation, twice over the annexation. Can we afford to be doing more litigation? Is this going to become the city of litigation? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Jesus.
I'm Louise Cottenberg from the city of Sebastian. And I'm old. I served on the first CRA committee. There were 15 members. It was a terrible committee to work on. To get 4 people to walk in the same direction at the same time is difficult. 15, impossible. But I think I have to commend the last lady who was here speaking, saying that we should all do our research, and so should she. Apparently, a number of people have missed a great deal of the information that was included in the packet. I read the entire 138 pages. If you had, you would see that the funding for the CRA doesn't come from the city. That the company who drafted the plan based on factual information at the direction of the city. And the aspirations, and a CRA plan, long-range plan, is aspirational, is in balance with what the community asked for during the public meetings. These are the things that we would like to have. If we could have anything our hearts desired, what would we like? Well, here's a big list of things. Can you do all of them? No. Can you plan to do all of them someday? Perhaps. As time moves on, our needs, our aspirations, our desires change. The CRA is funded kind of like I guess I can explain it the way that the county takes taxes from all of us. A portion of the share of the taxes that the county takes from the properties that are in the CRA, which they would get even if we didn't have a CRA, because we do have a CRA, are returned to this community as opposed to being thrown into the big bucket. It's kind of like supporting a charity in your community that serves your community. The general citizens of the city of Sebastian will benefit from whatever is done there, and it doesn't affect their taxes because the city of Sebastian does not pay for the improvements. The funding that comes to the CRA pays for the improvements that are made, and they can only be done if the budget allows, and a great portion of what is done through grants, which are not free. We all pay for grants, but we're going to pay for them anyway. Let's have some of them in our city. And I kind of missed, because I read the whole 138 pages, I kind of missed the section that said we're going to be spied on and forced to never leave our district. I got to go get my tin hat. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this? Anybody on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
All right, public input's closed. Council?
Mr. Mayor? So I would like to talk a little bit about the CRA district. The CRA district was founded in 1995. This was founded by the city council then to help redevelop our city front area to provide a better community for its citizens. If you came to the workshops that we had on the CRA district, we discussed basically 5 or 6 properties that we were interested in developing. One of those was the triangle where the city compound is, which went out for a request for proposal to citizens. I don't know if they've submitted bids or anything on that yet, where a private company will buy that property, build something that fits what we desire for our city, for our citizens, and the same for the old hotel property down on the river. Not the waterfront side, but the western side of the road. During that workshop, we talked about other things. I discussed with our consultants possibly upgrading the crosswalks, maybe down there finding some funding possibly to put lighted crosswalks. If you've ever been up in Cocoa where it makes it safer to walk across the road, maybe add more lighting to our riverfront area to take the areas down by Riverview Park and make them more friendly for handicapped people and other people when there's events there. All of this is based on doing better for our community. There's nothing, not a single page in this book that talks about adding cameras, adding communication, adding anything along those lines. It's all about bettering our community for everybody. Riverview Park is a very busy park and many citizens use it, as well as the riverfront area. If you read through this, this is a very comprehensive plan based on discussions that many committees, many workshops since 1995. I don't know how many workshops there's been, but there's been a few. And the two we had recently within the past, 3-4 months ago, to discuss. And a lot of citizens came and gave their input on which directions they'd like to see it go. Some of the people who are here were at those workshops. That's how these things get developed. In no way is there anything in this development plan to control our citizens or to hamper their lives. It's all to make it better for all of us on public-owned, mostly riverfront property. This is a great plan. And yes, I've read all 138 pages of it as well, and I have read many smart planning books as well on that note.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Anyone else? No?
Okay, I just want to say to the people who brought up the information when it came up, I agree with you. I don't want to be controlled. And this is a council at our last meeting refused to put traffic cameras in school zones because we felt like that it was exercising control that we didn't need to exercise. but I also don't want to see people speeding through school zones. I just don't think that putting cameras all over the place is the solution to that. There is, I believe, on the part of some people, and I read through this brochure that was handed out outside the meeting today. There seems to be some confusion between what's talked about here as a smart city, which is a technology smart city. Cameras, monitors, everything, okay? And I don't know whether the lady that came up was talking about Oxford, England, or Oxford what, but I've never seen anything that says that any city in the world is stopping people, except for Moscow maybe, is stopping people from going from one zone to another more than 100 times a year. It might be true. I haven't looked that up. I'm going to look that up just to see, because it would surprise me in toddy England that they would tell people they can't leave their zone for more than 100 times. But there is a concept, though, that's called a walkable city, and the city of Sebastian is very much enticed by and very much in favor of walkable cities, or a walkable environment. That's an environment where you build mixed-use commercial and residential in the same area, so people who live there can possibly, if they choose to, shop, work, so forth, within that same geographical area that they do that in. That's not tied to any of the cliches of the day. It's not tied to global warming. It's not tied to anything else. It's just tied to convenience, and it's what people want. If you talk to a lot of people, they want to live in a place like Asheville, North Carolina, because every neighborhood has stores and they can walk to everything. And that's why they go there, and that's why the houses there cost more than they do in Miami. So I think there's some confusion between those two. You're not going to see Sebastian turned into a technology smart city. It's not going to happen here. First of all, I wouldn't, if I'm on the council, I wouldn't approve it. But it's not going to happen here because there's no synergy for that. There's not enough money to be made by someone to do that in a city the size of Sebastian. They may want to do it in New York, but they're not going to want to do it here. I just don't. I just don't see that this plan is in any way tied to any of those conspiracy things that people talked about. I just don't see it happening. The plan was actually paid for. The dollars to pay these consultants to do this plan came from a state grant. So you did pay for it in your state taxes. It's just that the city of Sebastian didn't pay for it. The grant paid for it. Okay. Theoretically, anything that any government gives to anybody, you pay for 100%, right out of something. I don't know what it is. It, maybe from the Disney tax, I don't know, but you're paying for it some way or another. And that's where it came from. And a lot of the development that we do down there will be funded through state or federal grants. The Working Waterfront was funded through a state grant to preserve working waterfronts. And an enhancement of that will be funded through a state grant to enhance preserving working waterfronts. There's so few of those in the state right now that they're trying to preserve those. So I think you can rest assured that this is not what you think it is. It's not this. It's not that. I don't disagree with you at all, 100%. I don't want to see a city in which every move is monitored, every camera is active all the time, and all this kind of stuff. That's why I don't live in a city like New York, is because I don't want to see that, and I don't want to live in that environment. It's not going to happen here. You're not going to see that happen here. So I'm very much in favor of this, and Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval of the Sustainable Economic Redevelopment Master Plan.
So we have a motion, and we have a second. Any other discussion?
Well, I would just say is, I don't know if I'm getting old or they just call it institutional knowledge, but I got elected shortly after the 2010 update of this CRA district, and I've seen over that time all the good things that have been done along the riverfront and in the CRA district, and also serving on the MPO committee. I recall probably 10 years ago when they were having this, sustainable seems to have like negative connotations now. And when they were coming out with the 750 plan, they were planning for 7 counties for the next 50 years. And there was a lot of concern back then. But one of the things, I mean, you have to do plans. You have to look out 50 years, especially in Florida. The growth we've had down here is, water is very important. You have to plan for that. But this is just involving the CRA district and updating the plan because things have changed since 1995. You didn't even have iPhones in 1995, and even in 2003, I don't think you had an iPhone then. So we definitely need a new update. And as far as you think, if you're not being monitored, if you carry one of these, or one of these, or one of these, they know where you are at all times, as well as the new credit cards that have the chip. You do it, they know where you are. So unless you're giving up all cellular communications and going back to cash, which nobody takes cash anymore, you're not going to be off the grid. They are watching everything you do. But again, this has nothing to do with any of those. This is just, we're planning, because hopefully we're not going to sunset in 2033. We're going to go the additional 30 years up to 2063. And you see in a short period of 10 years how things have changed. I can't even imagine what it'll look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now. So I'm in agreement.
Yeah, all right. Anything else? Madam Clerk?
Okay, Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. McPartlin?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Chairman Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. We're going to go ahead and adjourn the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting and reconvene the City Council meeting. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Second?
No? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, very good. Do we have any committee reports?
No.
Yeah. So our next item, public hearing none, unfinished business none, new business none, city attorney matters. Mr. Mai.
This is my last meeting as interim city attorney, and I appreciate the confidence of the council in allowing me to serve. I've had a really good time, enjoyed it, and look forward to doing whatever work I can for you guys going forward.
All right, thank you so much for your service to us. Mr. Kilgore.
Yes, City Manager Benton asked me to point out a couple of things to you guys about the golf course. For one thing, the golf course driving range netting should be completed by the end of next week. The second thing is the golf carts were delivered last Friday.
Here, here. That's an exceptional
And they're being put into service this week.
Yeah, and I think the golf course netting will probably be done by the end of the day or perhaps tomorrow, because they were pretty much done today when I drove by there just to chit-chat with Greg,
So for anybody that didn't hear that, our golf carts that weren't supposed to be delivered till January were delivered this week. So that's wonderful, because our golf course was hurting, and that helps provide a ton of revenue to that golf course. People do not want to walk or use a golf cart that's going to break down, so that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Madam?
The day that they were, my son and I were golfing last week, and we showed up, got our cart, and Mr. Gardner excitedly told us that they were coming at midnight. And, I mean, it was timely, because we were putting on the parking brake, and it was not initiating, and we were having to turn the wheel just so to keep it from rolling, and it was cart path only because of all the rain we've been getting. So, I mean, they couldn't have come at a better time, and early, like 5-6 months early, so.
Yeah, absolutely, did a great job
Yeah.
of getting those in. Madam Clerk? Nothing. Next, council matters, Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yeah, talk federal grants for a second. So back when we were having COVID, somebody called me and they said, "Oh my God, don't take that money." Well, you know, my personal opinion and how I would explain it is, as a representative of the city and someone who's voting whether or not we take money from the state or the federal government, that's coming out of our tax money. That is all our federal tax money. And for us not to take that money means you're not taking the benefit that could be given to the city financially, but you're still going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it whether you use it or not. So that's why when we can get federal grants, and we do a very good job in this city at getting federal grants, and once again, yes, it's still your tax money, but listen, if we don't get that federal grant money, then we're paying for Port St. Lucie to get a new whatever, or Palm Bay, or Jacksonville, or someplace else in the city when it's state grant money or federal grant money. So federal grant money is a wonderful thing because it actually takes some of your federal tax money and actually puts it back into your community instead of it going somewhere else and us still having to pay that money. But that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Dixon?
Yeah, I mean, just, after some of the things that were said tonight, the whole reason I ran at a pretty young age and a very busy time in my life was because I'm raising a young family in this town that I did grow up in because I love this community and I want it to be a great place for them to hopefully come back to and raise their family in. So, I do not take decisions lightly up here, and I consider the future every single time I make a decision. So please rest assured that I do not take any decision lightly, and I always look at a very big picture with anything presented up here. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Dodd?
Okay, in the newspaper, TC Palm this morning, I know a lot of people don't read TC Palm anymore because it's kind of I'm one of those old guys who loves the newspaper, so. There was a very good advertisement from the county about the SHIP program. And if you're not familiar with that program, it is a program in which the county has funds that they can assist families who need help getting into affordable housing. They can do that for refurbishing housing or buying housing. They can provide assistance with down payments. They can provide assistance with maintenance on an old property that's purchased. They're opening up that for applications for grants, I think, on July the 17th. Maybe we can see about getting the city to put that advertisement from the paper in the website, but that's only going to be open for about 30 days. So if there's anybody out there in Sebastian who might fall within the income categories that are applicable for that program and they want to apply for it, you've got a short window to apply. That they fill up every year, they fill up very quickly on the amount of funds they have to do that. So if you don't apply early, you're not going to get into that. I'd kind of like to see if there's a consensus of the council for us to ask the city manager to move Catalyst Site 5 as defined in the plan, which is the Riverview Park plan, to move that forward and to produce a working plan for the finalizing design on that, and then defining implementation phases. I know, for example, it shows a parking garage in this plan, but we're not going to build a parking garage, maybe ever, but for sure not quickly. So there are some things though that are in the plan, like the small amphitheater on the riverside of that, some additional staging, some things that would really be beneficial to the residents as we have events down there. So I'd like to see if the council has a consensus that they'd like to ask the city manager to move that particular project forward.
Yes.
And put together something.
Yes.
So we do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I actually had made a note to ask him about that.
You'll pass that on?
So yes.
Okay, all right, good, all right. And other than that, I want to thank everybody for all their hard work. I want to thank all the people who come in here and give us good information. I like it when citizens come in and talk to us. Sometimes we don't get enough people doing that, and keep it up. So, good, thank you.
If I could mention something on the SHIP that you mentioned, the income guidelines are right low 60s for a family of 4 in Indian River County. And if you're a veteran or disabled veteran or a disabled elderly, you go higher in the list. So if you know people that are trying to buy a house and struggling, or trying to get a roof replaced or something like that done, right now is the time to get a hold of the SHIP program and let some of that money work for you.
All right, thank you. Mr. McPartland.
Sure. I mean, you jogged my memory. When you're talking about the Ship and Sail program, me and Brian, we had a great meeting with Habitat for Humanity last Friday here at City Hall, and they do a lot of great things for especially seniors. I think we need to have some, a department that really helps the seniors that are struggling now. And I'm hoping Cindy will do a presentation in a couple of weeks, because she had a meeting with ARP, because ARP has a program for people that are 55 years and older. And they can't take the place of a job, but they can work right alongside, and they're paid $11 an hour, can work up to 18 hours a week, and it doesn't affect any of the benefits that they're receiving from the state or the federal government. So people that I said, tell me what the number really is. And so for a single person, it's $18,000 a year. So if that's you, you're getting Social Security, $1,500 a month, you're eligible to be in this. Now, for somebody who makes only $1,500 a month is what they got to live on. $180 a week can be an unbelievable asset, especially as, you know, some people I know are going to struggle having to pay for the trash. This might be able to help them, as well as homeowners is going up. And that's one of the things that we discussed with Habitat for Humanity. They are helping some seniors with the roof, and they forgive some, but then they have a 0% interest if you qualify with them. So there are a lot of really great programs, but I don't think a lot of the work is done up in the Sebastian area. So that's what we're trying to bring with Brian, with Habitat, with the ARP starting, and then other programs. So that is exciting. And then, of course, I'm interested in hearing about your item here, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
so
sir.
that's all I have.
All right, thank you so much. And I have under my matters, I have many conversations with county commissioners, but the chairman of the county commission, Joe Ehrman, and I had a couple conversations, and we thought we want to try to bring it to you guys to say if we can have a joint meeting, we can have our staff, both the staff here, reach out to the staff there, and they can come up with 5 or 6 concerns, mutual things that we can all work on together. For example, septic to sewer on the river, and other projects that whatever our staff comes up with that should be most important for our city, working along with the county. So I would just like to get consensus from the council whether we can move forward with that and direct staff to draft those concerns and share them with our counterparts at the county.
Yeah.
I would just, you know, my one concern is you put too many elected officials together and, you know, maybe more of a workshop. You know, about 10 years ago, we did a joint meeting with Fellsmere up in Fellsmere, you know, and then everybody wants to make a point. So is a workshop better or a joint meeting? And I don't disagree at all, because I think it's great to talk to each other. Because I know you know, when you're on some of those committees and you're running into the county commissioners, that's time to talk, as well as me and Mr. Dodd on the MPO. We see all the commissioners at one time, and so anything that's happening. And I would also, you know, because I was down at the commission, I said, why don't you have a joint meeting with all of the municipalities? Because there's new people that come in all the time and don't understand how each, like the Tourist Development Council, how the MPO works, how all the additional bodies, and it's a time for education. So, I mean,
yeah, we're moving forward with that. The mayor of Vero, John Catullo, they're going to bring it up at their next meeting. I forget what the date is of the meeting, about having a joint meeting as well with the county and stuff. So I think it's a good move forward, and I like whatever we're discussing to be in the public eye. So that's why it should be a meeting where the public can listen to what's happening, and then you can see how we're all working together, because we all need to work together. We all live in Indian River County, and we all want things to work for everybody. So this is one of those things that we can continue to build those relationships with our counterparts.
Okay, and are you talking about a staff level meetings to start the process?
Yes.
And then elected official level meetings after that?
Yeah, well, they draft up our concerns here, mutual concerns, and the county does the same thing, and they communicate and put it together, and then work on talking to us and to pick a date and time for the meeting. So it's going to be a lengthy process, but
yeah. So we'll go into that elected official meeting with a pre-developed
that's exactly right.
list of concerns. They'll come in with a pre-developed list.
Yeah,
of concerns.
but we'll have it'll all be in one packet. So all together. Yes.
I think we definitely should do that.
All right. So all right. Can you make sure, obviously, that Brian knows to have staff work on that? All right. We have nothing else? All right, this meeting is adjourned.